The sun's beating in on you.
100 and what are we at today? Fine temperature of Satan's asshole today. Oh, it's only 102.
I was gonna say we didn't even get that hot today. Like it was warm, but it was mostly humid.
I was gonna say it's getting ready to climb for us. It's looking
It's the
like
climb.
Thursday's 108, Friday 112, Saturday 109, Sunday 109, and then Monday we kick her off to 112, and Tuesday's 114.
Well, you have fun with that.
And you know what? As long as there isn't the humidity like you have, it'll be
Yeah, I'm at
soon enough for me to have to
77%
deal with that.
humidity.
Yeah, we're at like, I think right now it's at 7.
I think we hit 100 sometime earlier this week, and it was like 100 degrees outside too, and there was no breeze. I'm like, oh my god, this is Satan's ass crack 2.0. He's got fucking Arkansas swamp ass.
Yes, he does. I mean, to say now, everybody's like, "Oh, how's it going down there?" I'm like, "I'm perfectly fine. I got 110 degrees. Doesn't bother me a bit." In fact, this lady and I were talking at the little lady cashier that's at Safeway, and she's like, "God, it is just freezing in here." I said, "It is always, always cold in Safeway." I said, "I really look forward to the the moment that I can step out of that friggin' ice box and jump in my car and it's 150 degrees in that damn car. It feels so good." It's like I don't even want the air conditioner on until I get almost home.
Yeah, to be fair, our grocery stores here don't do that to us.
It's friggin' brutal here. I thought, well, granted, at CrimeCon, the breakout one was,
Breakout
it was
one, they
leaving
were
me.
swinging meat in there. I
Oh,
swear to God.
that one lady that posted she's like, "Can we turn the heat up? We don't need to refrigerate the bodies. We're all alive in here." Like, amen. Oh my God, it was so cold in there. I didn't care how much that sweatshirt cost. I was buying one because, God damn, it was cold.
Oh, I love how you messaged me and you're like, it's cold in here. I'm like, I'm over in breakout too, and I'm literally sweating. I'm like, oh my God, they need to turn the AC on in here. I swear it was all directed to you guys because it wasn't like
It
that in the
must have
main
been.
ballroom either.
A ballroom wasn't bad, but yeah, when I got to breakout one, it was like, oh my fucking God. It was like halfway through, and I'm thinking, let him shut it off. Let him shut. And I'm like, nah, I'll just tip out of here and go stand in the sun for a little while. And it's like, where the fuck are you going to stand in the sun? Everything is a closed area. Like, I get cold in this house, I can go out on the patio and
Mm-hmm.
warm up. I couldn't do it there. And then it's like, are you about done? I'm like, oh no, get in here. They're having questions. You got to come in here. And you walk in. It's like, Jesus Christ, it's cold in here. I'm like, really? Hey, I have no color in my hands. They're white. I'm frozen. Ugh. And there are people walking around with spaghetti tank tops and dresses and shit like that. And I'm like, oh, you people are
Couldn't be
fucked.
me.
I'm wearing
My anemic ass
no.
is like, nah, it's cold.
Oh my God, I was so happy. That's what I told everybody. And they're like, "Oh, you wear comfy clothes." I'm like, "No, well, yeah, but it was jeans, thick socks, and hiking boots." And I was so friggin' happy to have my hiking boots on because if my feet had gotten cold, it would have been game over. I would have been done. I would have definitely gone out and sit outside in a little bit because yeah, that was just wow,
Mm-hmm.
brutal cold.
Oh,
Mm,
absolutely. No, I'm like,
mm.
that's pretty cold, yeah. Although Dad decided he was gonna bake me the other morning.
Was this not this morning when he was trying to do the
No, no,
secret
no.
time?
That was a whole different other scenario to which I was like, why were you in and out of the secret time door for so freaking long? What's going on? We'll get to that here in a
And
second. Anyways, he came back and he was talking to me. Mind you, I'm half asleep. I sleep during the day because everything gets done at night. And he said, do you want me to turn the AC on? And I went, yes, please turn it on because I don't want to break a sweat back there, but I also want to be chill and comfortable and have a blanket on while I am asleep.
mm-hmm.
I woke up around 10, 11 ish. And I'm like, I threw that blanket off of me and I'm like breaking out in a sweat. I'm like, I'm fucking dying. It's it's over. I'm like, is the AC on? And I look over and there's no light. I'm like,
He turned on the one in the main
yeah, he did
room,
not
the
turn on the
breakout
one
one.
in the back room. He's like, it's cold in here out here. You just gotta come out here. I'm like, am I sleeping out there? No. No, I'm not.
No, I'm not. I know. Dad doesn't think of that stuff.
Like, god damn. I freaking woke up. I
Well,
thought I was dying of a heart attack or something. I'm like, it's over.
I can't remember who I was talking to. Oh, it was your Aunt Kathy. And she's like, yeah, we keep the house at 71 degrees. I'm like, the fuck? Seriously?
The
And she's
lowest
like,
I
oh,
go is
yeah. She's like,
74.
oh, she's like, hey, we got to keep it cool in here. I'm like, that's like, no. Mine's at like 78 to 80, depends on what time of day it is, because I've got the programmable
Mm-hmm.
shit on mine. I said, at nighttime, that bitch goes down to 72. And I have to make sure the dogs are covered up. The cats are on their own because they don't like covers. But it's like, oh my God, I could not imagine living in the house with that that temperature. Oh,
I
no way.
No,
Oh,
today's
no
whole
way.
fiascos, I got done with these notes because I'm doing 2 episode recordings this week. I got done with these notes at like 6 in the morning, 5 in the morning, 6 in the morning. I went back inside, and at that point, I'm like, I don't even. It's not even worth it to fall asleep on the little bed couch that we have in the trailer. I'm just gonna wait for Dad to wake up, and I'm gonna go take the back room. So, I do that, and as I go lay down, Salem is up in my face, all over me, wanting snuggles, doing the roll dive thing, trying to fit in my nose, and then I like open my mouth to tell her like, "Can you back off?" and she just sticks her head in. I'm like, did we miss me that much? I was not gone that
Grandma
long.
doesn't do that to her. I know. I
Oh
never
my
believed when
god.
you said that she would try to crawl up your nose until the first time when I came down there for the clips and everything. I'm like sound asleep. The damn cat comes up and literally takes her friggin' nose and shoves it in my nostril. And I'm like, Salem, I'm not mom. She backs off, looks at me a little bit, and wanders off. About 10 minutes later, comes back and hits me again. I'm like, dude, it's still me. I'm still here. You don't fit. Trust me.
I'm
And
not
she's
your
like,
mother.
oh,
Go
my
away.
bad. Yeah, and then she climbs up on top of me and does that flat hanging out cat that she does on you. Because every time I'd walk in to see Katie, Salem, literally, Katie's sleeping on her side, and the cat is on her ass, but she's got her arms out and around Katie like she's giving her a big, massive hug, and her chin is sitting on her, and she's just like, my mama. So she was doing that to me, and it's like you never believed that she would come in and lay with me and cuddle with me until you walked in the door, and then she runs off because oh my god, how dare she get caught cheating? But
Yeah.
yeah, she oh god, trying to get up my friggin' nose.
But yeah, no, she
Weird
shoved
ass
her
cat.
whole head in my mouth today. I was like, this is intrusive. I don't like this, Salem. I'm like, okay. So I finally get her settled down. We start falling asleep, and about like I want to say around 7, 8 o'clock in the morning, the camper shakes. And I'm like, what is happening? So I wake up and I hear the freaking secret time door, which is literally the door in front of like the TV. Like the TV's mounted on this door. It's a secret door to get back to more storage.
Places on it too. Yeah, there's
Yeah.
a storage area where you could put a washer dryer and store other stuff, and we put our laundry in there to keep the cat from pissing in it. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
Because my cat's a pisser, 1 in 3, man.
Mm.
Anyways, so I'm like, oh, okay, Dad's doing something. And I'm like, I hear the door close. I'm like, okay, I can go back to sleep. I freaking knock back out in two. Not even like a full like 5 minutes later, I feel the camper shakes again, and I lurch up. I'm like, what the hell? I hear the door. I'm like, oh, what the hell is he doing? Not really paying much mind to it, and it closes again. I'm like, okay, I can go back to sleep. And it's like Groundhog's Day. It happens again. And I
It
wake up
keeps
this
happening.
time, I'm like, I'm gonna frickin' be on a murder show. What the hell are you doing?
That's what I would have yelled at the second time. I was like, dude, knock it off. I am trying to sleep. Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, I'm like, I told him that before I left. I was like, dude, I was trying to sleep. He's like, oh, I didn't think I woke you up. I'm like, the
I know.
that door opening
That
didn't
being
wake me
said,
up.
Katie is one of those kids. She's like my brother. Literally, if you walk up to her and do the Katie, it's time to get up and do the soft nudge, be prepared to get smacked because she will come unfriggin' glued. Arms, legs, everything. She comes out of the bed. She's ready to fight. if you start yelling at her ahead of time and tell her, "Get your ass out of bed! I'm coming! I need to get in the back!" And then she's like, and out she goes.
Dad really
John has
hasn't
not
learned that
figured that
yet.
out. No, he hasn't. He's had you for almost 30 years, but still has not figured that out. But it does help that I had my brother as a shining example of what not to do to wake him up. Because yeah, I used to
Hmm.
you kid around with the Indian tiptoeing. I could go from my bedroom, which was on the opposite side of the house, and downstairs, all the way across, come up the staircase without making a squeak, a crack, or anything, walk up and then touch him and scare the living bejesus out of him and then run like hell because he was ready to fight.
Okay, yeah, but you have like ghost footsteps, okay?
Well, yeah, that's how I learned. I practiced off of him. So you can always commiserate with him and say, yeah, mom just scares the shit out of me when she comes sneaking up on. Oh, I'm sure he's got quite a few stories for
Like
you.
about half an hour ago, Dad walked up because I think you sent him a meme or something, or he found one.
Hmm.
And this man does not walk quietly. He gave me the
No.
Thorstensen gait, the Norwegian gait of you feel us coming before you actually see us.
Yep.
And
Feel and hear.
feeling here. And I'm sitting there and I'm writing stuff. I got my headphones in, and man, I didn't know that he got up. He actually walked quietly and was just standing next to me with his phone out, like, look at this. And I looked up to go back to reading my article, and I screamed. I'm like, motherfucker.
Poor daddy.
He started laughing. He thought that was hilarious. I'm like, God damn it, man.
But you got to remember, his mom was the queen of Stompy Stompies because, honest to God, they had this humongous house down in Colorado
Hmm.
Springs. And John had 10-foot ceilings, 10-foot walls, 10-foot ceilings. And even then, you could hear Sue get up, stomp around in her bedroom, which was over top of our bedroom. And then her gate as she'd go across to the kitchen to make coffee or whatever. I'm like, I seriously don't know how anybody could walk that heavily for the frame and build she was. There's
Hmm.
no way physically possible that this woman could stomp around like that until you get the rest of the Thorstensons there. And then they all are parading around like a fucking load of elephants upstairs. And it's like, oh, God, no. Yeah,
Hmm.
they all sound exact. It's them because John didn't sound that way. I certainly didn't sound that way, but all of the Thorstensen genetic ones did.
Yep.
Yeah. It's like, oh my God. Anywho. All right.
Anywho,
Enough bitching.
enough banter, enough bitching.
Oh,
We're
God,
here
we're
for
both
true
dying.
crime.
It's hot.
Oh yeah, it's hot in here. I'm like, might have to take a break about midway through so I can turn on the AC and just like stand over it like Count Dracula. All right. So, while we understand that some individuals listen for the entertainment aspect of true crime, it's important to remember that these are real people with families and friends who may still be suffering from their loss. These stories are not meant to open old wounds or cause further emotional damage to those involved. We remind you, please be respectful and do not dox or contact those involved with cases. The case discussed on this podcast today may be disturbing to some audiences, and viewer discretion is advised.
No way we go.
And away we go. I said viewer discretion. It's listener discretion is advised.
It doesn't matter.
Go
We all
to with that, whatever you want to do.
yeah. We get the general. Okay.
All
It's
right.
wine time, so you should have some too. But you got to read. So
I gotta read. Which that's already hard enough to do when I'm sober. You want to mix alcohol with that?
true story.
So, Rico Harris was the oldest of four siblings and born in a Los Angeles suburb of Alhambra in 1977. He was a talented individual at basketball in school and was considered to be a strong college prospect. Rico actually began his college career at Arizona State University.
Well,
Fear the fork.
I'm like,
Yeah, the
can't
way that
do
people
this
are like,
guy.
you're throwing gang signs at us. No, it's just their fork.
It's a fork. It's a
It's a
pitchfork.
fork.
Fear the fork. Oh, fork yourself.
However, Rico actually ran into trouble with the law at some point while he was attending Arizona State University. There was an arrest made, but there's not much known about the charge regarding it or if there was a charge at all. And it's been stated that it was an unlawful imprisonment.
From like a lawyer or
Legally,
just.
unlawful imprisonment,
So, in other words, they arrested him just for the shits and giggles of it.
basically. Or somebody might have made an accusation that wasn't true.
Ah, okay.
Hmm. In the wake of this, Rico moved closer to home and led the LA City College team to its first state championship. Rico then attempted to get drafted into the Major League Basketball Network, which is the NBA, twice. However, he was never selected for a team, and unfortunately, this started to lead Rico down a dark path of using drugs and experimenting with speed before eventually slipping into the grips of crystal meth.
Ooh. I wouldn't even say that's a slippery slope. He just pretty much stepped on it, went right down.
Well, speed is still meth, but it's at a
Yeah.
lower capacity in comparison to just
Yes.
doing crystal. Like, I had to go look that up because I was like, isn't speed just methamphetamine still? I'm like, what's that?
It's a methamphetamine,
So,
but yeah, it's a light version
a white
of it.
version of
Yeah.
methamphetamine.
Yeah.
So, Rico then transferred to Cal State Northridge. Rico stated at the time, I was tired of everybody pursuing me and I was stressed out. Since at the time there were a couple other schools across the country that wanted him for basketball, like Rhode Island State, for example. According to David Lara, one of Rico's childhood friends since like elementary school, the experimentation with drugs and alcohol may have hampered Rico's performance on the court when playing. Problems did continue to rise at Northridge, resulting in a suspension and Rico missing the final 2 games of the season. By many, if not all accounts, Rico's future was looking bright, and soon he was playing for the Harlem Globetrotters.
Ooh, excellent.
Then, things took a very rough turn in early 2000. Rico was the victim of a assault that left him with a severe head injury or head injuries. He had been hit in the head with a baseball bat after trying to break up a fight.
Oh, that'll do it.
This unfortunately forced him to leave the Harlem Globetrotters due to coordinational problems that followed. This was the beginning of a very understandable downhill spiral for Rico. Between the years of 2000 to 2007, Rico, who'd returned home to live with his family, had developed drug and alcohol problems.
Oh, dude.
Rico was arrested for trespassing, burglary, and being publicly intoxicated. His life was beginning to spiral out of control. Rico didn't talk much about his aborted basketball career, even with friends and close relatives. And eventually, he even started to earn the nickname Houdini by some of his friends for his ability to just drop out of sight.
Sometimes you gotta.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, sometimes it's easier than explaining your actions. If you not necessarily ditch a person, but ghost them type of thing.
It was noted that at times Rico would vanish for 4 to 5 days without warning, just to simply clear his head. He loved driving and would go between neighboring states like Arizona or Nevada. The destination to him really didn't matter. Additionally, at this time, Rico was facing 16 cases in LA County Superior Court for public intoxication, burglary,
Jesus.
and trespassing,
Whoa.
which would cause him to
Dude.
be in and out of jail.
I was gonna say if they line them all up, he's gonna be in a lot more than he's out.
Especially if they add on extra legal factors as well, which
Exactly.
isn't right to do. And it's very like racially charged towards individuals.
Yeah.
So it's
But
unfortunate.
if he's got a past history of it,
Yeah.
that kind of comes back to bite you in the ass.
Yeah, it does. During this time as well, Rico was diagnosed with bipolar disorder, and he had stopped taking his medication because he didn't like the way that it made him feel.
That's never a good thing.
In 2007, Rico began his journey of getting sober. Rico was also beginning to hold multiple jobs and was working as a security worker at the time. Rico, who stood at 6 foot 9 inches tall, would come off as menacing to most people. However, it's noted by most individuals that knew Rico that he was a gentle giant who always was smiling and was an easy to like gentleman who had an easy time making friends of any social class, including celebrities.
I say, dude, that's like over a foot and a half taller than your micro ass is.
I know. I'm like, I'd be breaking my neck to look up at him.
You'd be like, hello, sir.
Hello, sir.
Can I get you something down here? Is the air clearer up there? Yeah.
Then in early 2012, in an LA restaurant, Rico met Jennifer Song while he was working security for an event. The two seemed to hit it off. Rico snapped her picture and asked if he could text her, and so the connection started.
Oh.
By the time Rico had met Jennifer, he'd been sober for around 5 years after a program in downtown LA, which was operated by the Salvation Army, helped him to achieve this goal after a overdose nearly killed him.
Good on him.
Rico eventually took a job as a cook with this organization as well, and also helped out as a security guard at the homeless shelter in Bell, California.
Nice.
Rico also worked security with Ayla Lilo, and I'm so sorry if I mispronounced that. I did go look on pronouncenames.com. Not sure if I got it, but moving on. And they worked underground parties in LA for about $25 an hour. And this helped him to supplement his job at the event company. So gaining a little extra income here and there.
Good on him.
However, even then, there were times Rico would simply vanish from sight several times throughout the event and resurface with mysterious stories about going on cruises and meeting other women, to which he never mentions where or who these gals are that he goes with, and it's kind of questionable if it's even happening or not.
So does he like give notice to his work that he's gonna leave?
No, he just kind of
like,
vanishes.
vanishes and then comes back and they're
Yeah.
all accepting to go, okay, dude, you had a cool trip? The fuck?
So this is
I
LA.
want that kind of job. I was gonna say, I want that kind of job.
This is
Peace out,
LA.
bitches. I'm peace out. I'm bitches. I'm gone. Damn.
Regardless, though, Ayla regards Rico as being a very loyal employee and noted Rico as laughing, grinning, and focused on his security career. Rico did disclose to his friend David that he'd had a couple of rough months, though, after these events, and he was struggling with depression, and ultimately, he started drinking again.
Oh,
bringing, at the time, his now 7 years of sobriety to an end.
Yeah, absolutely horrible. I completely understand it, and not my end, but on my end of sobriety stuff. My dad went through the same thing, especially when after mom passed.
Oh,
It was
yeah.
like he had 20 years of sobriety, and then it all came crashing down. So
Oh,
yeah.
Unfortunately, the event management program company ultimately let Rico go due to his drinking, leaving Rico to feel as though he'd let his mother, his friends, his fiancé, and anyone else that was important in his life down. However, in 2014, after years of back and forth with a long distance relationship and constantly living nearly 200 miles away from each other at the minimum, Rico is going to move to Seattle, Washington to be with his now fiancée, Jennifer, permanently.
Aw.
Rico's mother, Margaret Fernandez, recalls how excited Rico was to start this new chapter in his life and possibly even starting a new family soon after that. And it's mentioned in the investigation discovery episode, California Leaving from Disappeared, that Jennifer was ecstatic. And the two had already been talking about, like, oh, what's our baby gonna look like? Like, so on and so forth, like our family. And it's just this huge thing that they were so excited for.
Well, she wasn't pregnant though, right?
No, not at the time.
Okay. They were just
They're planning for the
well,
future.
the possibilities.
They're
Okay, the
planning for the
possibilities,
future.
yeah.
They're like, we're gonna get married. Everything's gonna work out. We're we're doing the thing. Like we're with each other to the end.
That's good.
On October 8th of 2014, Rico drove alone from Seattle to Alhambra to collect more of his clothes from his mother's house for an interview that he had with a friend in real estate regarding selling timeshares up in Seattle.
Ooh.
Rico sipped a beer with his stepfather at the duplex and confided in him how he was wondering if the move was the right choice.
Uh-oh.
Charles Taylor, Rico's stepfather, asked, "Then why are you doing it?" And Rico responded with, "Well, I'm ashamed of the things that happened down here, and I want to start another life."
That's a good reason.
Yeah. Margaret told Rico how she was disappointed in his relapse with alcohol, which had ended his sobriety train, and ultimately urged him to pull it together, to which Rico apologized and agreed. And she further stated, "Something broke in him to the point where he felt like his comfort was going to be in alcohol. He needed to self medicate to make himself feel at least some kind of joy,"
Oh.
which is absolutely heartbreaking.
Yeah, it is.
On Thursday, October 9th of 2014, 37-year-old Rico left his mother's house in Alhambra, California, and began the 1,143-mile drive back to Seattle, Washington, to begin his new life with Jennifer. This final
Wow.
push would finish a move that started nearly 3 weeks earlier, and his goal was to arrive in Seattle the next evening of October 10th at around 7 p.m. in time for his real estate position interview.
Damn, that's cutting it short. That's a long damn
Mm-hmm.
drive.
Rico left sometime in the evening of October 9th to the morning of October 10th, heading north from Los Angeles to Interstate 5. At 1 a.m., Rico contacted his mother to tell her that he was already on his way to Seattle, which Margaret's surprised as she'd been expecting Rico to stay the night at her home.
Uh,
After this phone call with Margaret, Jennifer contacts Rico and is surprised to discover that he's already on the road, making his way back to Seattle. Jennifer had also presumed he'd stop somewhere in Los Angeles and rest for the evening, or at least take a nap. The trip between the two West Coast cities would take around 18 hours to drive under normal conditions. And according to one article, he'd basically done a turnaround, meaning that when he came down from Seattle, he grabbed his stuff and just started right back up,
left.
meaning he's been awake
Damn.
for nearly 36 hours at the time that he spoke with Jennifer.
Oh, dude. I've done that. It's stupid crazy.
Mm-hmm. And I can even
Mhm.
speak on that end too, because when we moved down here, I was on over 24 hours without sleep and I was
Uh,
hallucinating.
Dude, I did
It
that
was the
driving
scariest drive.
from northern Colorado to Seattle, Washington. I did not sleep. And by
Mm-hmm.
the time I flew back home, everybody sounded like your uncle because he yabbered at me the entire time. I didn't get to sleep. Oh, God. Almighty. Oh, God. I mean, even the people on the airplane on the flight back, I could still hear him. They were all talking, but they all sounded like him. Yeah. Oh, God, I can't imagine doing that ever again. Oh,
So, with nearly a 17-hour drive still left ahead of Rico, Jennifer and him settle in for a long chat as he makes his way up the highway. Jennifer notes how the two of them talked on the phone for 3 to 4 hours, just about general things. However, she was concerned that Rico was too tired to be driving, knowing that he'd gotten no rest earlier in Alhambra. At around 3:30 a.m., Harris notes to Jennifer that he wants to try to take a nap in the mountains just south of Seattle, noting that he'd have a great view of the stars and some time for himself.
God damn, how fast is he driving?
I think he's just planning ahead, Mama.
I was going to say, because you still have Oregon to go through,
Uh-huh.
and that's a long ass drive, too.
So, Jennifer, who's familiar with the area's twisting and turning roads, advises him against stopping there because it's dangerous at night. Rico then states that maybe he'll just find a rest stop instead and that Jennifer should go ahead and get some sleep.
After what I've read about rest stops, never stopping at one to sleep ever again.
Oh, God.
Nope.
It's going to make my blood curl, isn't it?
Oh,
It's not even going to
yeah.
curdle. My blood's just going to like, and like curl
It
in on
makes your
itself.
butthole pucker and you just go, but yeah, we got to do this guy. Anyways, we'll talk more on later.
Jennifer recalls that she slept for a couple hours after this phone call and that she'd woken up again around 8 a.m. And immediately she called Rico to get an update on his location. Rico answers the phone and tells Jennifer that he'd just filled up at a gas station in Lodi, just 40 miles south of Sacramento. However, during this phone call, Jennifer recalls how extremely tired Rico was sounding. And ultimately, the call only lasts about 15 minutes in total.
That's not good.
Margaret also makes contact with Rico shortly after Jennifer and his call ends, simply wanting to check in with him and see how things are going. Rico told his mom that he was going to try to go look for some food and try to find somewhere that he could rest for a little bit. Margaret, on the other hand, also notes that he sounds incredibly tired and even tells him, "You should get some rest." A while after this initial contact on the morning of October 10th, Jennifer and Margaret both try to contact Rico to check in on him, once again, just trying to see how things are going. However, neither of them are able to reach Rico via phone call. Jennifer tries to ease herself from this growing concern that she's got going, figuring that Rico is driving through an area with poor cell reception. So she decides, against her better judgment at that time, to go ahead and send him a text. Like, she battled with herself for a little bit before she sent that text because she doesn't want him texting on the road.
Exactly.
At 10:44 a.m., Jennifer receives a text back from Rico stating, "Sorry I missed your call. I'm doing well. Thinking about you." There was apparently another phone call that came in just before 11 from Rico saying that he was going up to the mountains to rest and that his phone was going to be turned off. And that was at around 11:15 a.m. that came through. This initially sends some relief through Jennifer and allows her to tell herself that there's nothing to worry about and that she'd see him in a few hours. She just needs to leave him alone for a little bit and let him rest. However, there's still this feeling that something isn't right. And something keeps telling her that there is something to be worried about and she should try calling him again. To which she does. And the phone rings and rings with no answer.
God, that is such a long day. I'm sitting here looking at the map. The mountains that he's probably talking about are clear the hell up in Redding and Mount Shasta and all that kind of area. It's like, good Lord, that's a long drive to just suddenly go gone.
So, thinking that Rico might be somewhere in the mountainous area they discussed earlier in the morning, Jennifer decides that she's gonna go ahead and give Rico an hour and then try calling again. However, when she tries to call, the phone rings continuously once again with no answer. Jennifer is now worried, but is still believing that Rico is going to arrive at 7 p.m. She decides to go ahead and just wait it out. But 7 p.m. comes, then 7:10, then 7:20, and at 7:38 p.m., Jennifer is now completely convinced that something is wrong.
Trust your gut.
Jennifer frantically calls Margaret asking what she should do and if she should file a missing persons report on Rico. To which Margaret notes to Jennifer that she has to wait 2 days before filing a report for Rico. And he's known for just going off and doing his own thing. So they should really just kind of wait it out and let him do what he needs to do. I'm sorry, at that point,
That's what I'm like,
let me
bullshit.
let me tell you something real quick. The
We're gonna
fucking
reiterate this again for
waiting,
the 100th time.
the waiting period to file a missing persons report is fucking bullshit, okay? You do not have to
Yes.
wait a 24-hour period to file a missing persons report. That was, if I remember my facts correctly, and this is just paraphrasing, that was something that was implemented in the 1960s due
Yeah.
to overcrowded missing persons reports where people would just show up the
Right.
next day. I can understand why they're kind of waiting for Rico because he does have a history of just going off on his own.
Exactly.
However, like I've said before, if you've got this gut feeling that something is wrong, deathly wrong,
Call.
make the report. File, make the report, do it.
And don't sit back and go when the officers say, or if they say, I should said,
You should wait 24 hours.
we'll,
No,
we'll wait a little while. There's possibly they could have just, no,
absolutely
trust your
fucking
gut.
not. Something is
Absolutely
wrong.
trust your gut because it is bullshit.
Now, on Monday, October 13th, around 700 miles south of Seattle, a Yolo County, California sheriff's deputy is making routine inspections of the Lowersite parking lot in an isolated rest area of Cache Creek Regional Park.
Whereabouts is that at?
So it's about midway up California, a little bit past midway.
No, Sacramento's technically midway.
So it's Cache
Well,
Creek Regional Park, if you're looking for it.
I'm looking for it. I'm not finding
And Cache
it.
is spelled Cache.
I'm just figuring if he was talking about mountains, the only mountains start pretty much in Shasta Trinity National Forest. Otherwise, it's like Spartan between then.
Yeah, I think this is on Highway 16. When the deputy came upon an abandoned black Nissan sedan parked off to the side, and it was not in a lined spot. Ultimately, this officer doesn't think too much of it, and he returns to his duties for the day. The following morning, though, when the officer returns, his concern grows, noticing that the car is still there, in the same position from the previous day. So, he decides that he's going to run the plates, and it comes back to one Rico Harris. So, officers in Alhambra make contact with the registered address for the car. When law enforcement arrive at Margaret's house to inform her that Rico's vehicle had been found and he was nowhere nearby, it prompted the question of his trip and where he was going. Margaret then makes contact with Jennifer after this interaction, letting her know that Rico's car had been found by law enforcement and that she was going to be filing a missing persons report. Meanwhile, Jennifer is digesting this new information and recalls how receiving this news about Rico being missing is an absolute nightmare, and that these are the things that we only see on TV.
It's always when somebody even just minutely blanks out. You, as living proof, would know.
Mm-hmm.
If I can't get a hold of you, how badly I freaking freak out.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. But in turnaround, she also leaves me messages if she can't get a hold of me and starts whining and crying. So, yeah.
I'm the love of your life. I am your darling daughter.
What the hell should I be doing other than taking care of you, huh?
Exactly.
God.
So, law enforcement also informed the family that Rico's car battery was dead and that the car had appeared to have been ransacked as well as being out of gas.
Didn't he just gas? Well, that is quite a journey, though, but yeah, still.
Rico's wallet remained in the car with his driver's license and a couple credit cards still inside, though.
Now, that says something different because if it was ransacked for a robbery, that shit would have gone.
Additionally, a bindle was found inside of the vehicle.
What the hell's that?
Which is a common storage method for illicit substances. So a bindle is basically like when they take a baggie and they twist off the top and like tie it. That is a bindle.
Okay, I guess I'm old. We just would have called that a baggie. But yeah.
Well, that's the correct terminology. So
Tells you I'm not good with the drug scene.
there was a bindle found in the vehicle. And like I said, this is a common storage method for illicit substances. However, no other drug paraphernalia was found inside of the vehicle. And drug paraphernalia are simply tools that are commonly used to produce, conceal, or consume illicit substances. Some of these are bongs, roach chips, miniature spoons, and various other types of pipes. However, it's not limited to just these items. Additionally, if you're
Roach
gonna,
roach clips,
I said roach
not
clips.
chips. You said roach
Okay, well,
chips.
it's
You can
roach,
go.
roach clips.
I won't miss some of them.
Nom, 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 nom. I'm like,
Nom
honestly,
nom
if you
nom
had roach
nom.
chips in your car, I'd be like, eh?
Quick question: was the bindle full, or was it empty?
It was not disclosed.
Oh, son
So
of a
I'm
bitch!
presuming it may have been full.
Again, if he's got that,
If they're
the credit
making
cards
note
and the
of a
wallet,
bindle being in the vehicle, I presume evidence wise there was some type
it
of
probably.
illicit substance that was either in it or traces of it within the bindle.
I was gonna say I bindled my cat poop. Are they gonna
No.
tell me that's? So if it had something in it, again, here's another.
Well, it's the same thing
They could have
as
taken
drug
this. They could have taken
paraphernalia because you can
right.
smoke tobacco out of a pipe, you can smoke it out of a bong, you can obviously smoke it out of a hookah. I do it every freaking night. It's
I was gonna say,
when
but you
you
would
use
snort.
a illicit substance in that drug paraphernalia item that it becomes drug paraphernalia.
And if he just has that, he's just transporting drugs, which he had been clean,
Hmm.
other than alcohol.
However, you don't necessarily need like how should I put this? You don't need the big hefty equipment to do drugs. You
No,
really don't.
exactly. That's what I'm saying, though. And if it was a full baggie of said substance, why didn't that? If the car was ransacked,
Why wasn't
that would
that
have been
taken?
that taken his credit cards and his wallet. Hello,
Hmm.
what the actual fuck?
Yolo County Sheriff's Detective Dean Nyland started his investigation, and his first step was getting the time frame of Rico's travels. What time did he leave, and what time was he expected to arrive at his destination? So it's presumed he left somewhere a little bit before 1 a.m., possibly around midnight, and he was planning on being there around 7, if we remember correctly.
7 p.m., right?
Hmm.
Because 7 a.m. ain't gonna get done from LA to fucking
No,
Seattle. There's
unless you
no
were
goddamn way.
flying.
I said, how fast was this dude driving? 'Cause there's no way.
Following this initial step, Dean then contacted Rico's cell phone provider to check for any recent pings from the phone. And there was one ping that indicated that the phone was at a point 70 miles away from where the car was found in Redwood Valley.
Oh, so he is up there. Okay,
Hmm.
that makes sense. All right, so we found him. He's up in the Mount Shasta area.
Using this given information, Dean got the phone numbers of every resident that he could find in the Redwood. Hold on.
Redwood. Hold on, we're going Norwegian now.
We're going
The
Norwegian.
Redwood
I'm
Forest.
sorry. My accent slipped out. Get back down
Yes,
there.
it did. Tuck that bitch back in.
Using this given information, Dean got the numbers of every resident that he could in the Redwood Valley area. He then began making calls and leaving messages to individuals regarding the potential missing person in the area. Dean then began to question if it was Rico that had even driven the car to the parking lot, and if he could possibly still be in the area somewhere or nearby and simply lost or hurt.
Ooh.
The area of the park where this parking lot is at is known to be the home of bears, mountain lions, and environmentally, like it has steep cliffs, sharp rocks, and the Catchapeak River runs right next to this lot.
Ooh, that's not good.
The search and rescue team was dispatched urgently to the remote and dangerous area to try to locate any signs that Rico had been there. However, there was no trace in the woods around the parking lot or on the road that leads down to the Lowersite Parking. But by the creek, the investigators spotted their first clue, a set of fairly large footprints as well as insoles to a pair of tennis shoes. Dean notes how the size of the shoe was a men's 18, which happened to match the
To be his
size
size.
of Rico's shoe.
Right.
This allowed investigators to make the presumption that Rico did, in fact, drive his car to the site. The evidence collected allows Dean to begin to piece together a possible scenario of Rico waking up and possibly taking a walk down to the riverbed to either wake up with some of the water, like splashing it in his face, or just simply get some fresh air and check out the scene. And I know what you're thinking because literally when I read that, I was like, oh, it's dad trying to put his contacts in down at the river.
No, he wasn't. He was splashing his face and he was laying on a rock on a towel, thinking that would give him better traction, and just like, whoop, right in he went. I'm like, that's not a good thought, but yeah, I'm
Yeah.
sorry. My brain just went there because, yeah, thanks, Tom.
Now, while the search team continues to work in the surrounding area where the car was found, Dean gets a promising lead from a man in the Redwood Valley area who had received his phone call. This man informs Dean that he is in possession of Rico's phone, but he didn't know who it belonged to, and that it was simply found along the side of the road with a backpack. Dean collects the backpack and the phone. However, more questions begin to arise upon receiving the two items. Inside of the backpack was a set of jumper cables, which was odd because that would normally be an item that you would leave with the car
Car,
in
exactly.
case it was needed. Then, upon searching the phone, there's a video that Rico had shot earlier at the site. However, it's not really clear if Rico actually knows that he's recording himself. It appears that the phone may have been sitting on the center console in the car while Rico was listening to music and basically vibing. Then he suddenly starts ripping up papers and throwing CDs around the vehicle.
That peculiar.
Mhm. Dean notes that he doesn't know what Rico's frame of mind was at the time, but the video itself makes him concerned for Rico's mental well being. When this evidence is presented to Margaret and Jennifer, they both display very different reactions. While Margaret uses these signs as a form of comfort that Rico has to be still somewhere in that area, it also adds to her anxiety and despair that something's wrong and she doesn't know what's being done firsthand with this investigation.
Okay.
On the contrary, Jennifer's heart sinks at the news that Rico had left his backpack on the side of the road, noting that he would carry that backpack everywhere, like it was his own personal purse. Like, he didn't go anywhere without it.
He was diagnosed with bipolar, right?
Mm-hmm.
So he could have easily just went at that point.
Yeah, he may have had a manic or a depressive switch and just
Yeah.
went boop.
Interesting.
Rico's car is towed to the sheriff's office where it is processed for fingerprints and DNA. And speculations begin to arise as to how the car came to have an empty gas tank and a dead battery.
That's my question, because he not saying that he couldn't have run out of gas, because that is a long distance from
Mm-hmm.
Lodi to where he's at. That being saying, though, why is the battery dead?
Investigators presumed that when he reached the parking lot and stopped to rest, as Rico said he was going to do, and he'd somehow run out of gas at that location and just continued to like use the battery for the radio.
Well, I'm thinking if this was in October, right?
Mm-hmm.
He's up higher in elevation.
He might have been using the gas to
He
heat
may
the
have
car
he
and
exactly he
he
may have
ran
had the
out.
heater on and the radio and fell asleep and did not realize that both died, because the car would have just shut off if he ran out of gas, but the battery would have kept on going with the radio, and if he slept for
Mm-hmm.
longer than a few hours, Radio static.
Yeah, they both cut out.
Mm-hmm.
The question, though, is what brought Rico so far from Interstate 5 to the Lowersite parking lot in the Cache Creek Park?
That and throwing out his stuff is a good question.
And it's a long side trip in the dead of night just to see some mountains.
Exactly. Or to have a rest area.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Dean then begins to delve into Rico's history, trying to gain a better understanding of who Rico was and what type of mindset that he may have been in at the time of his disappearance. Dean found that Rico was a good kid who was absolutely against drugs and alcohol and went as far as to even make fun of his best friend for smoking marijuana in high school. However, as we know from previous discussion, this obviously changed going into Rico's adulthood. And after being
Right.
sidelined due to his injury at 23 years old, it led Rico down a dark path, which he comes out of after a prescription medication overdose. In August of 2014, Rico had decided to move to Jennifer's townhome in Seattle, and they were discussing marriage as well as their future together. However, the transition proved to be more difficult than expected, and after 2 weeks of living in the new home, Rico still hadn't unpacked a single box.
Hey, you're the same fucking way.
I am.
Don't get on my Rico boy about that because
To be fair, though, I moved back to Arizona, and y'all were like, we're going to start looking for property. I'm like, do I unpack? Do I not unpack? What do I do? I'm like, I'm only unpacking the essentials because I don't want to have to repack all this.
yeah, and 2 weeks is not an extremely long period of
No,
time to not unpack.
exactly. And
So
especially, like, Jennifer notes that she could feel how sad and insecure Rico was about not having a job and feeling like he couldn't provide for her right away. So it's like he's trying to find work too. It's
yeah,
just
he's
like
got
we open the
and then coupled with
necessities. That's it.
exactly, and then coupled with the crippling bipolar
Mm-hmm.
disorder
Yeah.
and the restart of alcoholism too. So
Yeah.
yeah, boy's got a lot of shit handed to him.
However, that was going to be changing with the interview to sell timeshares full time. Dean issued a missing persons bulletin using the Nixle automated notification system, which works similar to a reverse 911 call from what I could discover. Nixle,
Oh, is that the same thing you had going on
that's the
this
same
morning
thing
in
that I
your
had
apartment?
going on this morning.
Okay.
Nixle
Okay.
is predominantly used for severe warnings like weather, criminal activities, traffic complications, missing persons, and local events that may be going wrong or something is happening that's like avoid this
Yeah.
area.
Okay.
Using the system, Dean sent out an alert to over 4,000 individuals in the surrounding area asking them to call if they had any information regarding Rico Harris, which in the following days, Dean gets multiple calls regarding possible sightings of Rico. There were sightings on October 12th of Rico sitting on a guardrail and him walking southbound on Highway 16, and then one of him walking around his car and seeming confused. Ultimately, though, after these sightings, Rico simply vanishes.
Oh God.
Dean worries that Rico may have relapsed after being clean for nearly 7 years into something harder than just alcohol and asks friends and family about his mindset prior to the move. To which he discovers from Jennifer that something had changed and Rico didn't feel the same as he usually did. Noting further, his room was a disaster. And after she'd pushed him to tell her what was going on, Rico came clean about how he had relapsed at the beginning of August and the end of June, and in the end of July.
Well, that explains the baggie
Mm-hmm.
of substance.
David further noted to Dean how Rico confided in him about his alcoholism and was concerned about backsliding into bigger problems, which David knew Rico was very capable of doing. Jennifer also makes mention that there was tension in the days leading up to the last push of the mood and how he went off by himself into Seattle for some time. She considered it to just be like well, this is my city, I'm going to explore it. However, he doesn't come back home, and she calls him only to find out that Rico had actually made his way all the way back down to Los Angeles.
Holy shitballs.
Mm-hmm.
Again, dude drives.
Yeah.
Like, good God, it takes me 12 hours to get to freaking Texas.
Then the next time Jennifer spoke with Rico, he was already heading back up to Washington. And at that point, he had been awake for what I would say 36 hours. However, with this
Oh.
new information that Jennifer's providing of him possibly going out into Seattle and exploring that territory, we're now bridging on him being awake closer to 48 hours.
Oh my God. That tells you there's something involved with it too. Like
Mm-hmm.
speed, methamphetamine,
Yeah.
something like that. Yeah.
Dean notes how there's obviously stress in the situation and how being awake for so long makes Rico dangerous to himself and to others, leaving Dean to wonder if, rather than going to the mountains to rest, if Rico had actually gone there looking for a more secluded location for him to do drugs.
Yeah. Or just be away from all the noise in his head too.
Mm-hmm. On Sunday, October 19th of 2014, a week after Rico's disappearance, a witness came forward stating that he'd seen a large male walking just off the road by a cattle guard in some bushes by the Lowersite parking lot. Additionally, more footsteps that could be consistent with Rico's shoes were also found, leading investigators to believe that Rico may have gotten a ride out of the area previously and came back a week later to retrieve his belongings or maybe even his car, which is gone. 1 month into the investigation, cadaver dogs were sent to the site to look for Rico's remains. At one point, one of the dogs seemed to have favored a deeper pool downriver. This prompted dive teams to search the entire area. Unfortunately, though, they came up empty. Obviously, Margaret and Jennifer both reached out to media to share Rico's story and get his face in the news, hoping that this would bring him home. Ultimately, though, weeks turned into months, and months turned into years, and to this day, Rico Harris is still missing. With the amount of time that has passed, Dean has made mention of how it's likely that a crime has occurred within this case.
I was going to suggest that, but you know,
Jennifer
I'm just a guesser.
and Margaret both believe that the negative bias formed around Rico's substance abuse hindered the investigation greatly.
Yeah, it probably did. But, you know, devil's advocate, cops can only do so much.
So, before we go into Rico's description, I do want to make mention, because we've both kind of touched on it a little bit, that addiction is quite the monster. I think we've both seen it, if not
It's a
firsthand,
horrible,
secondhand.
horrible monster. I've seen it multiple times. Yes.
With this case, it's important to remember that addiction and relapse is common, and it's not a sign of failure when battling with substance abuse.
No, it isn't. You have to be strong.
70 to 90% of individuals experience at least one mild to moderate slip up.
Yep.
Addicts do typically return to drugs when they're triggered by a memory of a illicit substance, such as returning to an area where they had obtained a drug or seeing drug paraphernalia in relation to their substance of choice.
Or just wanting the comfort.
Underlying mental health problems such as anxiety and depression can also spike a relapse, as most illicit drug withdrawals lead to anxiety and depression, causing the person to not want to feel that way anymore and return to the substance.
Well, and you've also got a guy that has been awake for at least 40 hours. Being somebody that did that at a younger age. 30 some years ago. I can completely understand where he just freaked out and just, I'm done. I'm going to go do something. This will help me. Because you get to a point where you don't want to sleep
Yeah.
because you're not tired anymore.
Oh, absolutely. Like I've been up for
Yeah.
cuz I have clinically diagnosed
Horrible.
insomnia. Um I've been up for almost a week before, and it's gotten to
Hmm.
that point where like I could feel my heart in my chest like struggling to pump, and it's just I can't sleep.
Yep. You're to the past the point of exhaustion. So
Mhm.
your body just goes, hey, let's keep going. No, let's
Yeah.
not.
The
So
way that I
yeah.
describe it is that it feels like you're in survival mode at that point because it
Hmm.
literally feels like constant adrenaline rushes pumping through your system.
Yep. It's horrible. And then
Mhm.
add on top of it that you could probably get some rest and relaxation if you only had this.
Yeah.
Because this made you rest and relax and gave you comfort. So now let's go find that. Oh, wait,
Exactly.
my battery's dead. Oh, wait, my car's out of gas.
And not to mention, I'm not sure what all he had supply wise up there. Like
Hmm.
water, did he go get a drink from the river? Like what all does he have
Honestly,
with him?
I was going to say, honestly, people that I talk to that just go on road trips really never give that a second thought. I'm sorry. I come from the tiny tummy club that you have to take food with you because I get the
Mhm.
munchies. And ask Katie, what was I doing in some of the crime con stuff? Snacking on beef jerky,
Yep.
drinking my water, that type of
Snacking
thing.
on
It's like,
gummy bears, handing me a gummy bear
yeah,
and
snack.
squishing it in front of my face, being like, "Do you want one?"
Yeah, I always make sure I have food with me when
Mhm.
I travel, and I always make sure that I especially have loads of water, even though I tend to dehydrate myself when I drive because I don't want to pee all the way across the United States. So, yeah,
Yep.
I can only imagine that on his turnaround, he didn't think that stuff because he was already sleepy time, anyways. I just want to get back on the road and get back up
Mhm.
to where I was at. I'll grab something on the way.
Oh yeah. Well, when I came down from Utah, mind you, it was a shorter drive. It's like 8 hours, so it's 10 hours shorter. When I
Hmm.
came down, because I had not slept the previous evening, because my I was cleaning, and then my neighbor decided that
Oh,
they were gonna wear their high heels at 2 in the morning and stomp around. So I was wired. I'm like, I'm having an anxiety attack. Got some PTSD coming up. I'm like, I'm gonna go ahead and
and drive.
drive and head down. And I remember you're like, oh my God, please be careful. If you get tired, pull over. Like, what are you doing, girl?
Yeah, especially as young as you were. It's like, yeah. Oh,
Hmm.
I do that. I literally, like I say, I usually stop when I head to Arkansas in Texas and spend the night. When I'm headed to Arkansas, it isn't a big deal because then I know I've only got like 8 hours from where I stopped in
Hmm.
Texas. Coming the other way, I know I still have a good 12 hours
Yeah.
to go to Arizona. So my body goes blink at 3 a.m. We're up, let's go. Oh, Jesus, really? Yeah. And then you get the
Hmm.
sleepies when the sun starts rising, you get that twilight shit, and it's like
Yeah, that
every time my
circadian
body goes,
rhythm.
hey, yeah, it's like nap time, let's do it now. No, you've been asleep. Nope, nope, I can sleep right now. Yeah, I can't imagine battling that solo.
Oh, absolutely. I battled it solo. Well, I had dad in front of me on our way down here. But there were times that he was like far off ahead of me, and I'm sitting back there like I am struggling and I am seeing shit.
Welcome to my world. I swear to God, there was a dead elk in the middle of I-40 outside of fucking Flagstaff, and I'm like, Katie, I just saw some shit. And you're like, I'm sleepy. Let me sleep. I'm a bitch. I'm hallucinating. You need to drive.
You need to
Yeah.
drive.
Oh my God. Yeah. So I can completely understand that. I hate driving at night to begin with, but
Hmm.
it's like, oh, I can't imagine. Granted, he was younger, but still,
Yeah.
it's still horribly hard
I
that
think the
long a
number one
distance.
thing that I remember from that trip was I was so tired that my headlights out in the desert made it look like we were in a dome.
The one where you and I coming
Yeah.
back from Eureka Springs. Dude, I had tunnel vision so friggin' bad, and it was like driving literally in a tunnel, but
Yeah, it
it
was
was
like
like,
driving
I
into
swear to God,
the Eisenhower Tunnel without lights.
yes. I remember kind of glancing because I didn't want to take my eyes off the road because, oh my God, I'm doing 75 miles an hour in the frickin' dark. I'm like a freight train. But I kind of remember glancing over to the side when I saw something, looked, and I swear to God, there was like a bear or a big ass elk or whatever. And I went to the right lane and back over to the left lane type of thing. And that's when I'm like, you know what? Probably not a good thing to be driving this late at night, midnight-ish. Your daughter's been asleep for a few hours. How about you wake her ass up and make her drive? She's got young eyes. She can see this shit.
What do you mean? My eyes are worse than yours.
I know, but you're a little miss. I'm awake all night
I
long,
am
which was
usually.
fine on the way out, just not on the way back. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah, that was a really stupid move behalf of
Yeah.
us. But yeah, live and learn.
Got some interesting stories out of it.
Oh God, laugh. The frogs or toads or whatever they were.
Oh
Oh my
God.
God. Is it wrong that my brain likes that sound? Oh
Fuck you.
God, Katie, that was horrific. I'm sorry, that was horrific.
I'm
Anyways,
sorry. It sounded like bubble wrap. Like when you
okay, you got
pop
to go
bubble
back.
wrap. Okay.
You
This story begins in Texas when we pull over to get gas and I'm driving. As we're leaving,
yeah.
I miss the turn out onto the highway that would have been the easier way. So I'm taking a side
No, no,
road.
no, no. No, no, no. Texas has asshole lanes where literally the
Oh yeah, well
side
no,
road
it's dumb.
is dedicated, and then you have to kind of cross over that bitch to get the oncoming to get out onto the
Yeah.
40. It's stupid. I didn't explain it well. My bad. Katie missed it.
Anyways, I missed the turnout onto the highway, so I took one of the side roads. And as we're driving, there's all these little king toads on it.
Oh my God.
And
I've never seen so many friggin' toads in my
she's
life.
sitting next to me screaming, "Don't hit him, don't hit." I'm like, "What do you want me to do? I can't do anything else." And she's like, "Well, let me get you directions." And she turns down the radio, and all I'm hearing is pop, 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 pop. I'm like, "Please turn the radio back up. Please turn the radio back up. Please turn the radio back up." I'm like, my brain is getting tickled way too much by this.
My God. I'm like, what is wrong with you? And she's like, turn the radio back up. All I can hear are the toads exploding under my tires. I'm like, okay. So we cranked the metal back up. But oh God, that was. And then it took how many hours before we finally got the giggles about that? We were on our way down to your uncle's
Hmm.
in Oklahoma.
I was like, that was a really satisfying sound.
I'm like, you are a sick bitch. Oh God. So yeah, there's some of the examples of shit that can go on while driving in the middle of the night, even with two people.
Hmm.
Now imagine it by yourselves. I can't. I can't. I don't
No,
want to do it.
it's terrifying to drive in the middle of the night by yourself.
God, I mean,
Especially
I know
like
there are truckers
being a
that do
young
it, but
lady, I definitely do the like over the shoulder. I'm like, how long has that car been behind me? Are they following me? Am I gonna?
oh, I do, dude. After reading the book that I read, I looked at and yeah,
Hmm.
everybody gets the side eye from me nowadays.
Yeah. So, unfortunately, I was unable to find a NamUs profile for Rico Harris, but I will be attaching the link to the Yolo County Sheriff's Bulletin in the show notes.
And I'll be posting it on the media.
So, without further ado, Rico Omarr Harris is male. He is African American or black, according to his ethnicity on the Yolo County Sheriff's Department site. His height is 6 foot 9 inches tall. His weight is 300 pounds. Hair color is black. Eye color is brown. The date of last contact was October 10th of 2014. He is missing from California. His age at the time of his disappearance was 37 years old, and his age currently would be somewhere around 47 years old. Additional information is that Rico was last seen wearing white jean pants, a gray thermal shirt. He has a tattoo on his upper right arm of Big Rick, which, from what I could discover, was a band in the California area. Then there is another tattoo on his upper left arm with the wording Ballin, the Roman numeral 4, and life. If you or anyone you know has any information regarding the disappearance of Rico Omarr Harris, you are asked to contact the Yolo County Sheriff's Department at 530 666 8282. That number, one more time, is 530 666 8282. Thank you again for listening to Spattered. Please make sure to follow the show on Facebook and Instagram at Spattered Podcast and on X at Spattered Pod. If you're enjoying the show, make sure to follow and leave a 5-star rating on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music, or wherever you get your podcasts from. If you're watching on YouTube, like this video, subscribe, and ring the notification bell to be notified when the show goes live or drops a video. As always, if you have a case request, any questions, or are interested in sponsoring the show, please email me at spatteredpodcast@gmail.com. Spattered is a true crime podcast hosted by Caitlin Gardner and Sarah Ray. The research and edits for this episode were done by Caitlin Gardner. All the music for the show was done by Lucio Cardenas. We'll see you next time. Stay safe out there. And remember, the truth is always in the blood.